you start the report? Great, thank you. So thank you again for joining us today for the Mississippi Valley and South Central Workforce Board merger public consultation session. So our objectives today are to briefly review the history of workforce development boards in Iowa, look at the current structure, and discuss the potential merger. We'll also look at some of the advantages of merging local workforce areas and talk about the next steps. So prior to July of 2020, there was 15 local workforce development areas in Iowa. Prompted by a monitoring report from the Department of Labor, Iowa Workforce Development initiated conversations with the chief elected officials from across the state to merge local workforce development areas to increase capacity to ensure compliance with the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, better known as WIOA. After those conversations, there were several local areas that decided to merge, which brought us down to 9 local workforce development areas, which you'll see on the next screen. So this happened. Mississippi Valley was the first to merge in July of 2020. The other local workforce areas merged in January of 2021. So this was our current structure through, I believe, July 1 of 2022. And at that time, if you can go to the next screen, 4 local workforce development areas on the western side of the state refused their WIOA dollars. So that would have been Northwest, North Central, Western, and Southwest. The chief elected officials determined that they did not have enough funding available to be able to operate their local areas in compliance with WIOA. So they refused their local dollars, and now those 4 areas have combined to become Iowa Plains. That's overseen by a subcommittee of the State Workforce Development Board. And this is our current structure to date. We have 6 local workforce development boards in Iowa. You will see that Mississippi is the gray area on the eastern side of the state, touching South Central in the green, and the Northeast local workforce development area in the red. Go to the next screen. So the current situation is that all local workforce development areas took a significant funding cut this program year, and we're anticipating further funding cuts next year, up to 25%. This has made it to where South Central is unable to continue operations past October 1st. With this reductions in funding, it is putting strain on local boards to be able to employ essential staff, meet compliance and fiscal requirements, along with maintain the infrastructure required under WIOA. Next screen, please. So this chart represents only Mississippi Valley's funding. You will see that we peaked in our funding in PY22, and we've been on a stair-step downward since. We just started our PY25 program year. So from PY22 to PY25, Mississippi Valley alone took a $1 million cut across all of our programs. Next slide. So the proposed merger that is being looked at is potentially between South Central Mississippi Valley and Northeast. Chief elected officials, the CLEOs, from all 3 of these local areas have had several meetings to discuss this merger and what it could potentially look like for a new local area. The current status is that 100% of the counties in South Central and Mississippi Valley have approved the merger, and approximately 50% of counties in Northeast have approved the merger to date. The next steps are that South Central and Mississippi Valley will submit a letter to request the State Workforce Development Board to approve the merger. And this letter must be submitted by August 18th, and it will be on the State Workforce Development Board for approval at their August 25th meeting. Should Northeast decide to merge, they would have to call a special meeting of the State Workforce Development Board at a later date. Let's see. Sorry, I got off with my notes here. The partial merger would take place October 1st. This would be between South Central and Mississippi Valley. Mississippi Valley would become the local grant recipient, fiscal agent, and board staff to South Central. The full merger would take place July 1 of 2026. Under WIOA, there are 17 required functions of a local workforce development board, many of which are very time intensive. Some of those tasks are listed on the screen here. And if 3 local areas were to merge, that would reduce 3 sets of duplicative processes down to 1. For example, the local plan is typically a 100-page or more document that takes several months to development in partnership with lots of workforce partners across the system. Another example is the single audit. Currently, all local workforce development boards that expend over $1 million in federal funds are required to complete a single audit annually. This is very time intensive for staff and also comes with a very hefty price tag as well. So reducing that down to 1 local area would mean 1 audit for the entire area. Additionally, all local areas currently have to negotiate a memorandum of understanding and infrastructure funding agreement amongst 15 different partners and participate in federal and state monitoring as well as complete their own local monitoring. They are also required to track performance, develop policies, and perform budget oversight. So the current staffing of the 3 local areas is that South Central's executive director contract ended on June 30th of 2025. They have another staff's contract it is up to expire on October 1st of 2025, and their fiscal agent contract will end October 1st of 2025 as well. So no staff from the South Central local workforce area from the board perspective will be transferring. Mississippi Valley currently has 4 board staff, one of which is fiscal, so fiscal agent responsibilities would be completed in-house. If Northeast were to decide to join the new local area, they currently have 3 full-time board staff, 1 contracted staff, and 1 contracted fiscal agent. If they were to move on into the merger with us, that contracted staff and fiscal agent would not continue, meaning the new local area could operate with 7 highly focused positions, along with reducing the cost for having 3 executive directors for the old local areas and the 3 separate fiscal agents. So a merger of local workforce development boards that's being proposed would preserve local input through a subcommittee structure. It would strengthen the administrative capacity by pooling resources and ensure that local areas were to be able to continue operations and not lose service oversight to state control in the future years to come. Another reason that prompted the CLEOs to enter into merger discussions was the proposed Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act legislation being discussed at the federal level. In this proposal, there are significant cuts across the board to the adult dislocated worker and youth programming, up to 25%. It increases the governor's reserve fund from 15 to 25% of the overall state allocation. It implements a 50% training expenditure requirement on the adult and dislocated worker funds, and also increases the youth work experience expenditure requirement from 20 to 40%. There are a couple of positive aspects in this proposed legislation. One being that it removes the red tape for workforce boards to serve as the one-stop operator and eliminates the requirement for boards to negotiate that infrastructure funding agreement. So our next steps, if the State Workforce Development Board does approve the merger, the 22 chief elected officials from Southwest and Mississippi Valley will hold their organizing meeting. They will work on creating their CEO shared liability agreement, better known as their 28E agreement, that'll outline the financial liability for all counties, the board structure, and the subcommittee structure for the new local area. All contracts and agreements will be transferred to Mississippi Valley, including the ones with Iowa Workforce Development, the service providers, and the fiscal agents. After that, the CEOs will continue to work on the bylaws for the new board and appoint the new board members. Once the onboarding is completed for the new board members, they will hold their first organizing meeting. And this is the time in the session where if anybody has any comments that they would like to provide for the chief elected officials to consider as they move forward in this process, now would be the time to express those.
Hi, Miranda. Matt Thompson, president of Indian Hills Community College. Thank you for that overview. It was very well done. I have a few things I want to share with the group. I'll start with prior to 5 years ago, Indian Hills Community College served as fiscal agent and also service provider, a model that's happened across the country in many states to this day. And I understand that we've asked for some opportunity to be able to go back and do it that way. That's not been accepted. Unfortunately, it is happening in many other states. One of the major concerns that I have with the existing workforce board has been the sense of if this merger takes place, the lack of local control that exists. South Central Workforce Board service provider Indian Hills Community College has been one of the most effective service providers and most efficient service providers by the numbers over the last 5 years. And with the proposed merger, I'm curious how we can be assured that merging with additional counties, which looks like it could be up to 42 if Northeast Iowa comes into the fold, will not negatively impact the day-to-day services provided to people who are in the most need of support. I'm always going to advocate for rural Iowa, and currently the 14 counties that Indian Hills provides service to, many of these counties have the highest poverty rate in the state of Iowa, and I would encourage the board to consider future service models that allow for more than one service provider across 42 counties. That would help assure rural Iowa, folks from Corydon, Iowa, in Wayne County, all the way to Cresco, if that Northeast Iowa contingent comes in, that we have equitable access for services in the future. And my concern with the decision that is being made is that a larger service region will mean fewer opportunities for individuals that need access to quality services close to home.
Thank you for those comments. We will make sure that those are passed along to the CLEOs when they next meet. I will, it's not a Q&A session, but I will let you know that those are conversations that have already been had because that is a concern of the CEOs as well, to ensure that equitable service delivery continues as it has in the past. Does anyone else have any comments?
Hi, Miranda. It's Jen Erdman. One thing, I know you talked about WIOA reauthorization, but is there, I guess my concern is what is the impact of Make America Skilled Again and the skinny budget on the merger? And that would be something I would recommend considering during the merger.
So everything on the federal hill right now is up in the air. There's several different versions of Make America Great Again, ASWA, block grants, and nobody has a crystal ball to be able to see what that future looks like. As we know, some of the changes in all of those could significantly impact local workforce development board operations. And all of those circumstances are out of our control at the moment. And all we can do is proceed in a manner that we feel is going to be the best sustainable for the long term.
One other thing, has the cost analysis as far as the operational costs for the 7 one-stop centers plus one satellite been considered?
As far as what?
Just the overall operational costs that may impact the budget.
So at this time, there's no plans to close or change any of the local operations or services out of any of the centers. So operations are planned to continue as they currently are, and pending federal legislation. So costs would stay the same, pending on how service providers were procured.
Yeah, I was just wondering about the operational costs of the centers overall.
That's not going to change because the same amount of staff are going to be in each center. The rent's going to be the same. The subleases are going to be the same.
Hi, Miranda. This is Darcy Woodruff. I'm the Director of Grant Development and Compliance at Indian Hills. You alluded to the procurement of the service providers, and you provided a nice timeline of what the merger would look like, but there wasn't any mention of the service provider procurement in that. Is there any information you can provide about what that timeline looks like?
So there has not been an official timeline developed yet, right? We can't really do a lot of work on this until it's approved by the State Workforce Development Board. But for a new local area to be set up July 1 of 2026, procurement has to happen. It's not optional. But saying that, I think someone alluded to this earlier, there definitely can be multiple service providers within a large service area of that size. So even though procurement does have to happen prior to July 1 of 2026, that is not saying that it would only be awarded to one entity.
Great, thank you.
Are there any other comments?
Hey, it's Darcy again. I guess you had
Mhm.
also mentioned that in order to ensure that rural input was received and local areas were still considered in discussions, there would be more of a subcommittee model. Is that for the overall workforce boards or CEOs? I guess I'm still struggling to envision what meetings look like when possibly there's 40 plus just CEOs. Do you have any other information you can provide on that?
I don't have any other information at this time. I can just tell you that the CEOs have discussed what that could potentially look like, and they would negotiate that and discuss through what that would look like and include it in their CEO shared liability agreement.
Okay, thank you.
May I comment, Miranda? This
Sure,
is
Jim.
this is Jim Irwin. So this is Jim Irwin. I'm the Clio for Mississippi Valley Workforce Development. And Jason Roundbush and I have been working pretty diligently on this, along with Miranda and our staff. I want to first of all, I very appreciative of everybody that showed up this morning, tonight for this meeting. Many of your questions and concerns have been raised and have been discussed. A lot of it comes down to the shared liability agreement that we have amongst all the counties involved. Jason and I spoke multiple times on our own, just talking through this process. He and I were both part of the process when the workforce development changed the way we operate. I think that's 5 years ago now, maybe 6. And it was a heavy lift then, and this is not being taken lightly at all. I can tell you that. We know the mountain we have to climb to make this all happen by July 1st. And to make it all work, especially if we're going to put 3 workforce areas together. Our goal and Jason's goal, along with South Central, from the conversations that he and I had, was the CEOs of South Central were very, very concerned about joining Iowa Plains to the west and also joining Central Iowa, just because of the difference in workforce development and how the operations were happening there. We are going to do our best to make this work. Do I have some anxiety? Probably not near as much as Miranda, Mandy, Tyler, and Nicole do on our side, to tell you the truth, as our staff. But we will do what we have to do to make it all work. If you have questions, concerns, you make sure my email will be available, or Miranda, and she will get it to me. We will make sure that those concerns are heard and discussed, and we will try to make the best decision for everybody included. One of the things that came up a lot in our conversations was, how are we going to make this work, whether it's just the 2 or if it's all 3 with 42 counties. One of the discussions, again, we can't go into details because we don't have the details yet, but one of the conversations was we will create subcommittees. That we'll have a subcommittee for the former Mississippi Valley. We'll have a subcommittee for the former South Central, and we'll likely have a subcommittee for Northeast if they join us. Don't know how that's all going to look and how it's all going to work, but at least there's entities and CEOs from those areas that will have the ears so they can listen to your concerns and bring them back to the full board and make the decisions. We want this to go smoothly. We've seen and witnessed what has happened in Iowa Plains, and Jason was very, very adamant that that is not what he wanted for an outcome for South Central. He wants a great outcome in the end, just as we all do. All the CEOs, our first role is to take care of our county, and then our second role is to make this all happen. So again, please, if you have comments after this, don't be afraid to reach out and get them to your local supervisor / CEO. And then they can run them up through Jason, or they can run them up through through myself. Again, we're willing to work and listen to all conversations, all discussions, and all concerns. And if you have a concern, what I'm going to ask you is with that concern, give me some ideas of how we can make it work best or work for you. So I will get off of here. I'll shut up now. And again, if you have any comments, please make them.
All right, thanks, Jim. Does anybody else have any comments? All right, well, thank you everyone for joining us today. I appreciate everybody taking the time out of their evening to join our session. I would say that this concludes the end of our session, although I will stay on till 6 o'clock in case somebody else does jump on. So if nobody does have any other comments or questions at this time, you could feel free to leave.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm going to go play a little golf. I'm going to try to, along with my wife. But if you need anything, just send me a text, or one of you send me a text, and I can jump on if there's any questions or concerns with anything.
All right, thanks, Jim. I think we can handle it from here.
Well, I probably didn't add anything. I probably added more anxiety to everybody when I made my comments.
No, I didn't know you were on, so no, thanks for speaking
Okay.
up.
Yeah. So, okay.
Have fun golfing.
Oh, I don't like golf. It's all for my wife.
You don't?
No, I don't.
Oh,
Not at all.
well, you're such a nice husband then. Well, it's a gorgeous day to do it, that's for sure.
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah, no,
I'm sure you enjoy the extracurricular activities.
that's what I like about it. That's the only reason I even go, is just so I can enjoy a malt beverage.